Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Well, we're moving right along on Project Ruby, and today we're going to go ahead and get epoxy sprayed on our exterior. Now, last week when I sprayed the DTM, of course it floated around. I got places on the exterior that I didn't want it, just, a little bit overspray and dust. So the whole car was cleaned again. I went over everything and I found a few spots that still needed a little bit of work. So I worked on those, and then the whole car got Duragold. I used like Scotch-Brite pad Duragolds all over the whole car again, just to make sure it was really good and clean and there was no DTM overspray on it. So we're looking really good there. I've also done a little preliminary work, a little bit of masking here and there. So we're getting really close to spraying some DTM. So before we do that, let's grab the camera. We're going to look at these quarter panels before and after to see how they look. Now, I did a lot of hammering on both of them, trying to straighten them out. They've got good shape, but they're not exactly, I wouldn't call them smooth by any stretch of the imagination. So let's take a look at them, and then we're going to get over and take care of a few minor things, and then we can start spraying some epoxy. All right, let's start with the quarter panel I put on before we had Ruby dipped. And if you guys look way up there, you can see it's got good shape, but there's some waves in it. It's not exactly straight. There's not enough light to do this properly, but then we get back here in the back, and you can see right in here, it's not too bad. But down here where I did all that work, she's a little pimply, that's for sure. But like I said, it's got good shape, so the epoxy's not gonna fix much of this. We will have to put body filler on it, but I feel like we got the right shape. So all we have to do is smooth it out. Let's look at the passenger side, and then we got one other thing to check out. Okay, the passenger side is in much better condition, but it has its own flaws. There's some little dimples and little crease here and there that I wasn't going to hammer out because you end up making more of a mess than, just trying to get that little shallow thing out. But it's looking pretty good as you see the light, the reflection down through there. Got good shape, and that's really what I was shooting for, and that's really what you guys should shoot for, is good shape. So it's shaped right. You're not trying to fix things with body filler. You're just trying to smooth out your panels. So we're looking pretty good on this side. Now, one thing I want to do before we start spraying is take care of these pits right here. So when I was conditioning the car and getting it sanded and Scotch-Brite pad and everything, some pits showed up in the factory leading here that weren't there before. I don't know, maybe I sanded through it or I just exposed them. But of course, you guys, if you watch me lead the other side, I have pits too, and I don't want to just spray over these and hope that wets down to the bottom. So after I mix up the epoxy, I'll take a small brush and I will just fill each one of these pits manually and just make sure it gets down inside there and wets all the way to the bottom and then floats to the top. So we know we've got epoxy all the way in the bottom. I'll go ahead and do that on the other side. I'll take as long as it takes to make sure our first coat of epoxy is down inside of everything. So I will probably also do that here in the drip check, because there's a seam right in there, and just spraying it down in there, I don't think it's going to get down in there very well. I'll just rotate the car and we'll paint it down inside there really nice. Then we can load up the spray gun and get to spraying. So let me go ahead and get everything cleaned up. I still have to wipe the car down again with some wax and grease remover. You guys have seen me do that before, so I'm going to do it off camera. And then we start mixing up and getting some spraying done. Okay, the epoxy we're going to be using is from Napa Martin Sr., and it's the Tech Base. So it's the Primer Surfacer, DTM Primer Surfacer. It's a true epoxy. So it's 5 parts epoxy, 2 parts reducer, and 1 part hardener or activator. And I've mixed up about a quart here. I've got a little plastic shot glass thing I use. I don't trust myself to walk over there with this and this little crappy paintbrush and not drop something. So we're just going to kind of dribble some in here, I think. Just enough so we have something to wet the brush with. All right, now I'm going to go over and just fill in those pits like we talked about real quick, and then we can start getting some of this in the gun. Okay, so here's the drip check I was talking about. See this little groove right here? So I know it looks like I didn't prep that, but I dug that out. I wire wheeled it like 10 times. I've done everything trying to get that, perfectly clean. And that's about the best I can do. So what I'm doing it here is, you can see the gap between them. I'm just laying this epoxy down inside there and brushing it in so it has a good contact. So I know when I spray, it's not going to get down in there that well. because the air will pull the material back out. You know how it bounces off. So I'm just going to kind of lay this in here real nice. This will get sealed later with a urethane sealer or possibly a catalyzed sealer. But I'm going to do this on both sides and make sure that's sealed up super tight. All right, guys, not very pretty, but effective. So that's sealed up inside there really nice. All these pits are sealed down from the bottom all the way to the top. Had a couple, one on this side, a couple on the other side, where it just kept, you know how it'll pop open, you know, you think you got it filled and it pops open. So it just kept jamming the paintbrush bristles down inside there and filling it up until it was solid all the way from the bottom to the top. So we're good there. And I went ahead and painted some down inside that seam right there just to get it all the way down inside there. Really nice. So we're covered there. We are ready to go. The paint gun is filling up right now, the strainer. And I think we're going to start by painting the dash and these two pieces. So we got that and that on each side. I got a little DTM on. I sanded all that off because anything that's you know, going to be exposed and beautiful is going to get epoxy underneath. So we're going to go ahead and get the dash and the little pieces interior. Then we can put the car up on its side and get the top sprayed. All right, that's a coat on everything. Kind of a coat and a half over there. Got a little bit of a sag, but it's all looking good. I'm gonna let it flash off. I'm gonna mix up another batch, and we're gonna get a second coat on the whole car. I'm not gonna shoot any of that. I'll bring you back when I'm all done, and we'll wrap this one up. All right, guys, all done. Everything got at least 2 coats on. Some things got 3 coats. Like this area here down in the window channel there, that was pitted pretty bad, so that got like 3 coats. And I had the extra material after I got 2 coats on everything. So the interior, the dash, and the 2 pieces on each side, those both got 2 coats. The door jambs got 2 coats. Everything got 2 coats. The sail panel where the leading is right here, I put a 3rd one up here. It's a little lumpy because remember I used the paintbrush on it, so it's not laying very flat. You can see this is still really wet right here. This is where I put that patch panel in, so I threw a little extra in there to try to smooth that out. It actually doesn't look so bad. I mean, it looks pretty good. It's a little wavy right here where I had that warping where I worked it, but I think we can block all that out. Got a big old sag over here somewhere. It's right over here. Oh, there it is. So that's easy to sand out. That's when I was getting a little heavy-handed. But the quarter panel, actually, this one looks good. You know, we saw it in bare steel, and we'll never see it in bare steel again. But if you look through the light, you can tell it's actually in really nice shape. So I also put extra coat, you know, where I did some of the leading here, triple coat over here where these were pitted. Kind of same thing on this side. And yeah, I just kind of hit everything that I did a lot of work on 3 times. And so this quarter panel, you guys can see up there, and we moved the light through it. It's not bad looking. So it's a little wavy back here, and that's, you know, it is what it is. I worked it till I was diminishing returns with my skill level with sheet metal. So it's time to stop, get some epoxy on it, and we use body filler to get us the rest of the way there. This sail panel, same thing, a little lumpy from doing the, you know, the paintbrush down inside there, but it's all sealed up super nice. We'll block that out, and we're looking really good. So I'm really happy. Now this is the first coats of many for this car. I've decided to use epoxy all the way up to the top, to the just before I spray the base coat. So we'll be, you know, blocking this out, using some filler, putting more epoxy, and then block sanding, more epoxy, block sanding. So no urethanes, no polyester primers, no nothing. We're going to use epoxy all the way out to the top, and I just feel that's the best way to go. The dash the firewall, excuse me, came out really nice. I was kind of anxious to get some color on those the GTO that we put in there, and we got some work to do. They need to be filleted so it looks more like a, you know, kind of a pressed in thing, but yeah, that's going to be fun doing that, but it'd be a nice little project. But all in all, I'm really happy. I put kind of a sag over there, and I think that's about it. Maybe one other small one. So I did a lot better this time, that's for sure, and I wasn't trying to lay it down like clear. I was laying it down like epoxy, like it should be, but I'm really happy. It came out really nice, and I'm relieved to get this done. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up this video on getting epoxy on Ruby, and it's been a year in the coming. Well, I've been talking about this for at least, I don't know, 9 months. You know, we got to do this before we get epoxy. We got to do that before we get epoxy. Well, we're finally in epoxy, and I'm really happy to get it done. I had a little bit of drama today off camera. The compressor overheated and shut down on me. So I didn't know if it conked out or got hot and shut itself down. But I think the cooling fan in the cabinet is malfunctioning or quit working, and it got hot. So luckily it cooled down, it came back to life, and we finished spraying the last quart onto Ruby. So we're done with that. And I am really happy to get this done. Like I said, I'm relieved to get it done. The weather's starting to change. It's been a year since Ruby came back totally stripped. And you know, I was so fortunate with my climate and everything not to have to rush into getting epoxy on it. So we got a lot of work done on the front end that now should speed us up later on. But super happy to get this on, and I think now it's time to let this outgas for as long as we can before we start working on it. Maybe get the doors and the fenders over here and do some final work on them, and let this set, and just let it set. So now I can safely roll it outside, put a cover on it, and then get some other work done. So I'm looking forward to that, because I've been working on this thing far too much lately. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.